Welcome to the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. It's all about the creative freelancer, the professional, the entrepreneur, following your passion. If you love what you do and you're carving your own path, this podcast is for you. And as always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can check out more episodes and other great content. Hit that notification bell so you can be informed when new videos pop up, and put a comment below. Let me know how I'm doing or what guests you'd like to see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another great episode, this time with Afe Ayana. She is multi-talented, multifaceted, positive, just a ray of sunshine, and it was so great to talk to her. She's an actor, she's an activist, she's a singer, she's a body coach, she's an all-around wellness consultant and events organizer, planner, coordinator. She does so much. We had such great conversation. If you're ready to get into it, let's do it. It's the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Here we go. Viral Media Network presents the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. Today's guest, multidisciplinary entrepreneur Afe Ayana. Welcome to the Sam Jack Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Sam Jack Podcast. I'm not a professional, but wait, I am. We have a wonderful guest today, the lovely, talented, multifaceted Afe Ayana. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Jack.
I know it's been so long. I mean,
know.
we've kept in touch over the years, but recently, you know how things go as we get older, responsibilities and whatnot.
We get a coffee like once a year. I feel like that's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Let me throw the headphones on to make sure we're getting clean audio. Check, check, check.
As a professional would.
Yes, that's the one part we did all these. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, hey, now I can hear myself. Okay. And I can hear you.
Awesome.
So, we first met about 20 years ago. Has it been about 20 years?
Something
2005,
like that.
2006.
What is time, Sam Jack?
Yeah, exactly.
But a constraint of the mind.
I love that. I love that.
I only tell time by other people's children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter's 6 now, so I don't know if you remember when she was born, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Or there's before.
And I've probably known you at least 12 years before that, so at least I'm guessing 18.
There you go. Exactly.
See?
There you go.
It works.
Which rounds out to the 20. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense because it's like BC before children or
Right.
AC after children.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. So we met on the set. We did these 48-hour film festivals, which is a film competition. You got to write, shoot, edit everything in 48 hours. The run and gun, and it's just so thrilling. I mean, talk about how you got involved in that and sort of your experiences and your take on that whole process.
The 48-hour film festival is wild. It's wild fun. It's so exciting to have a team already and to be like, what's going to happen? And to you get a genre, you already have your writing team picked. You hope that everybody's really great. And I got really lucky because I was referred to you by an old friend of mine, Daniel Lee, who's now a film producer. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me an update on that.
Yeah, Sheena Black.
That's or the Black Bruce Lee, if you will. He loved to wear that Bruce Lee costume.
Exactly. Yeah. Still wearing it, I'm sure.
Oh, man.
But he introduced me to your crew, and because you guys all knew each other from Art Institute.
I went to school with Jonna, actually out on the East Coast, but Colin, Jonna Touche, shout out. We're gonna have to get her on the pod. You got to say everything short. But we went to Ithaca College out on the East Coast. But so totally surreal experience.
I'm from Western New York. I don't think
we ever
talked about this.
No, okay, so here we go.
From Buffalo, New York. See?
No way. Shout out Buffalo. That's so
Right?
awesome. Buffalo, Buffalo and their football team. The Bills have gotten so much better in the last couple of years.
Thank God.
I know they were close this year.
Them again.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have to talk. We'll have to have a conversation about that. There's another serendipitous moment when you stepped into the studio, but we'll save that because we want to focus on.
So wait,
Colin and
you
Jose,
met them, and they were all
John and
going
knew
to
Colin.
School.
Yeah, well, Colin and Jose came up from like San Luis Obispo area, and some of his friends were at San Francisco State, I think. And so some of them were there. I don't know how else, but they also lived. Remember, they lived at that compound in Folsom Street.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so they're just kind of like they had the burnt wire crew. Yeah. And then Daniel Lee
D. Lee went to the Art Institute.
Okay.
And so he was in the production program.
Yeah, and he knew Jonna.
Right.
And John knew Colin and Jose, and it was just this huge collaboration of people that we still keep in touch with. It's great. Like the Burnt Wire Viral Media Network repertoire production kind of collab.
Yeah. So that was our team. Yeah. And we picked what was our first script that we worked on?
Was it No Bullshito?
No Bullshito.
Oh,
that is honestly one of my favorite films that we created of all time. It was great. And I won an award that year.
Yeah.
For Best Actress.
Yeah, and you were great. Like you were the star role. So they always give you like parameters, and one of them is a specific character. And you were the diplomat, right?
I was the diplomat.
Margot
Plantagenet.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yes, and I used a Jamaican accent, but I was an African dignitary.
Yes, yeah. It was kind of that, African kind of Caribbean sort of thing.
Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah, Afro-Caribbean, exactly.
Yes.
So, but...
I don't remember what my card said, what country I was from, but maybe the Congo.
It worked, but it was great because, like, Frank Slodesco had the sound effects, and you had those big, like, kind of heel clogs, and you, like, the way you, like, hit the car and all this stuff, and... We'll have to roll B-roll on that,
good stuff.
And we're in the process of doing the audio commentary for that. So we've done a couple of those, and we'd love to have you do audio commentary for that one specifically, or any other films that.
It kind of was like a kung fu flick.
Yes.
You played the Sifu, we would call.
Yes,
him.
Sifu or Sensei. Yeah, exactly. Sifu.
Yes.
And what discipline is that when you say Sifu? Of martial arts.
I would think karate, but I don't know.
Okay.
That is not my world.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a great film. From that, knowing that we could put together in 48 hours a script, full on compelling story that from start to finish we shot all over the city of San Francisco on a weekend. And then the amazing thing to me is that, on top of getting the script and being able to memorize it in such short periods of time, then it's edited. Yeah. That's the other thing with so many projects that you work on in the world. I could say I've been in so many different film projects, and especially in the film world, you just never know. Something can look great on paper, and then it can take forever to get done, or maybe the funding stops and it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
Doesn't ever reach the finish line, ever reach the screen in some type of way. So it's always, to me, I think the beauty of that project was just having that tight deadline and keeping to it, and having professionals who were able to keep it together and get it done and have a great, like, one of the best things was having a great time when we did it.
Yeah, totally great time, and up all hours of the night and doing shifts, and this was before all this digital media. I mean, you had some of them were like cards, but some of them were on, like, digital tape and stuff. Yeah. But you had to do the processing, you had to input it into the computer and all that, the uploading and the rendering and all that stuff. Yeah. So you had to be very mindful of your media management and all this stuff. So all your younger film, one of these cameras is a cell phone, but like this is before the days that you could just shoot on a cell phone. It's this old camera. This 2-shot here is on an old camera. If we had a super wide, we'd show you. But this is from that era where you had to actually shoot on tape. And this 2-shot here.
Is that thing on?
Yeah, it is. This is the 2-shot here. Yeah, and then we cut to the single shot of you, and then we're picking it up with a single shot of me on the cell phone, but to go a little bit behind the scenes. But yeah, anyway, so it was just so much fun, and like we just kept in touch with the years, and we were always said, let's make a we never made a features film, so we're going to do that one day.
We're talking about
like you say, time.
We just have to agree on a script. And
exactly.
I think maybe it is just setting a deadline and going for it.
Yeah. Well, totally. But with all this, specifically in the Bay Area, Ryan Coogler, Boots Riley, Too Short doing this Freaky Tales. I mean, I think there's and the David Diggs from the Bay Area, and the other guy, I always forget his last name, but Raphael, who they're both in Blind Spotting. Yep, Raphael is really good at promoting. He had the Bay List come out last year, where it was a script competition and all that kind of stuff. So I think we just need to stay on it. And actually, I actually never thought I was a script writer, but I started writing a script. So I know we talked about kind of,
I didn't know that some things are written. Okay,
yeah.
We got to see
I'm
that
like
then.
60 to 70 pages into it. I'm trying to get 90, right? A tight 90 kind of, right, for a feature. But I know we talked about some ideas over lunch and stuff. So I think it's only, in Colin, he's full-time at Salesforce, but he wants to do stuff more creative too, so...
Well, that's the beauty, I think. I think what's interesting about knowing creatives over time is seeing where people started with their their visionary selves, and then how the practicality of AC after children for some people happens.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And then just the changing financial landscape of the Bay.
Right.
And
or you feel like you have to get a regular job, a real job to kind of make do.
Yeah. It's an interesting balance. I was thinking about this actually this morning. How I just recently had the potential of getting a real job.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I worked a 9 to 5,
and I think just like the best feeling in the world.
It is, and it is, and it isn't. I mean, it is because I love the freedom that being an entrepreneur and being a gig worker and working for yourself provides. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of focus, like you said, not having ideas and perhaps not getting them accomplished. Like, let's talk about getting together and working on a script. But sometimes, it's having that paycheck that makes you show up, that makes you do something.
Yeah.
So I think the drive as an entrepreneur so much is having that drive where, regardless of whether you're getting paid right now in the moment, putting the effort in and having the drive and following that passion.
It's an investment.
To actually follow through on something that you believe in.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I've been doing recently is really thinking about in the equation, right, of where our time equals money. Mm-hmm. I really had to do this probably, I started working in maybe, I don't know, the early 2000s, late 2000s, as a 100%, entrepreneurial 1099 based.
Yeah.
And it came to a point where I started realizing if I'm working in a system where time equals money, then I have to kind of create my lowest common denominator of what I'm willing to get paid so that I have time to do the creative things that I want to do. Yeah. So even more recently, as I've been working on the other side of camera and like the production coordinator role and things like that,
definitely want to
with
talk
some
about that,
commercial and film things, it's been really great because, as much as I love acting and I love being in front of the camera in that sense, there's so much auditioning that you do for free. There's so much free femme labor is what I like to call it.
Or you do a favor for someone for a project in hopes of like a bigger thing later.
Yeah, and those things I don't mind, but I think that especially in the acting world, there's so many things. There's all these hours that you put into sending out your self tapes, like before pandemic,
headshots, right?
Headshots, but also just like the time that it takes to get yourself together, pre-pandemic, drive to a place, park your car, pay for parking, sit there in the office for an hour or two, get psyched out or have to stay in a mental state and then get ready for an audition and then leave. That ends up taking 3-4 hours of your day.
Yes.
So it's
for free,
and you're not guaranteed the job. So that's where for me it's been really exciting working on the other side of using,
because your time there, you're getting paid
you're
every
getting
minute.
directly paid for.
Even when you're not there on set, the time that you're writing up a spreadsheet, coordinating, sending out call sheets, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? That's, even at your home office, you're billing for those hours, right? So you're trying to maximize your worth in your hours. So you're trying to maximize your free time, but also when you're getting paid, maximize your worth. So you're getting basically paid more of a consultant, because how consultants get paid hundreds of dollars per hour, and we can all dream, but like, to maximize that and to also think, hey, we're living in a high cost area and you're asking me for a high skilled job. Because I don't know if you've probably experienced, sometimes you see these producer roles and they're asking, even if it is a salary like $90K, $80K, say an annual salary, and you're like, that's not bad, but it's also like, hey, this is a high stakes role. So like,
right. And then also with that $90K, I mean, that was even with one of the positions I was looking at recently. It was, what are you asking me to do and how much time? Because so many people that when you start getting paid more, then it's your time becomes especially in this digital age, like people have complete access to you 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's where like professional boundaries and personal boundaries are so important. And that's where, as a entrepreneur and as, you know, a wellness consultant. I like to call myself, I saying, a multidisciplinary healing artist.
That's awesome.
You know, I really, really love that I can spend time and energy on myself and then, you know, bring my best foot forward when I'm working on projects and not come from a depleted state.
Yeah,
where
you're
so
grounded.
many people
Yeah.
are working, you know, my friends that work as like executive assistants and, you know, 100% of, I would like to say on the corporate teat, like, you know, their time is not their own.
Right.
And their ass is not their own either.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about that because it's like, you know, they give you a salaried job, but the hour, they don't, you work hours past the 40 hours you're paid for, and it's, and again, getting back to that more entrepreneurial freestyle is like freelance, not freestyle.
It is
but
freestyle.
Like, yeah.
Freestyle living.
But
that's what I like to call it.
But people that try to balance and say, okay, well, I need to get this grounded job in order to sustain myself and try to do it on the side, you're sometimes not always grounded, right? You're in that state of like, well, I'm burning the candles at both ends, right? So it's, you know, to be in that creative state, it's hard to kind of transition, right, between that if you're doing that. And then also, you know, you can't really put all of your effort into it if you're putting a lot of energy into, you know, making sure your corporate job or, you know, the assistant or whatever you're doing, you know, you're not just phoning that in and, you know, you don't lose that. So it's a balance, but it's also like, hey, you got to do what ultimately, if you do feel that creative vibe and you do, you know, want to take that spark, you really have to go into it and give it that time and that investment, like you said. Like,
it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice. It's a conscious choice. It's not just because some people are like, oh, well, you just do your thing and you're here and I, you know, in the social media world, oh, you're always on vacation. No, I only post when I'm on vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't show the copious amount of art.
Right.
The copious amount of hours when I'm doing other things, you know.
Practicing, honing your craft.
I show the interesting things. I don't show the 4 hours that I, you know, set up lighting for my audition or, you know, had my boring Zoom meetings, talking to my agent or whatever the thing is, you know.
Yeah. So you came up, basically, I mean, you've always been a musician, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And acting, you've had that kind of duality.
Yep.
So tell me about that and like where did you study and how did you kind of hone your craft that way?
Yeah.
And you know, kind of develop those skills.
Yeah, I went to I did my undergrad at State University of New York at Fredonia, so I was able to, you know, growing up in New York State. I grew up in New York State, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
There's great arts education.
Yeah, there really is.
And just education altogether. So, I mean, even to graduate from high school, I had to have a foreign language. In order to graduate from high school, I had the opportunity, everybody in, I don't know, I think it was like third grade, everybody had to learn how to read a little bit of music and play recorder. And those are, you know, so having this early, and even if I really think about it, even when I was a kid, starting, you know, I started school at 3.5 at a Montessori school. So to me, arts and education have always been one. There's no difference. Like my creative self was never fractured at an early age. For real.
Yeah.
You know, it's always like,
no, it's important.
I've always been able to think of myself as a creative individual. I didn't have to separate and be like, oh, well, I'm not a singer. I'm not, you know. Whatever I was interested in, I was at a young age able to explore. And I have parents that are educators, so it wasn't even, you know, that we had a bunch of money. We were poor shit, but it was that the public education provided that for me. So I was able to like really explore and be in after school programs. And I think that's when I started doing musical theater, like in a summer school program, and realizing that I love singing, and, you know, then New York State being in like swing choirs and different like state programs and that kind of stuff. So I think if anything, when I did my undergrad, I got my BFA in theater and acting. And then with a early childhood education minor as well.
Cool.
So, you know, really, I've always thought of like education and like creativity being, like I said, hand in hand. And I think it wasn't really till like after college that I really got back to my musical love and got into that. Yeah, I've just always, and then moving to the Bay Area, just around so many different creatives. It was a different time in the Bay where, it was actually affordable, a little bit more affordable.
I know.
So
I know. We didn't think so at the time because we were starving, just
starving
out of
artists as well.
Yeah.
but everybody I knew was either like a writer, a dancer, a DJ, a poet, a musician. And that's just who I gravitate to because that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And had the opportunity to start taking some classes at I think I decided I wanted to go into like jazz singing, which has been more my focus more so.
Yeah.
And then I got a scholarship to the California Music Conservatory.
Okay. Yeah.
And did a year of that program, put a year into that, and realized, I really miss acting. Like, as much as I love music, I missed acting. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, there's this program that I'm going to at UC Davis. It's a full scholarship program for mid-career professionals. Would you be interested in auditioning for that? And it was a huge and daunting, application process.
Really? Okay.
Oh my gosh, it was not easy. Because, Davis is mostly known as a Research One Institute. So I, unbeknownst to most people, am quite a research nerd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love research. I think at some point in my life I probably will go back and get my PhD.
Oh, wow. Okay,
I'm not
cool.
sure what right now, but I do probably see that would be something in my future.
Okay.
My dad was early Dr. John Staley, who was a big part of like the State University of New York at Buffalo, and so he has a big legacy. He passed away a few years ago, but has a big legacy in STEM and like in research programs, and getting a lot of young Black and brown artists or Black and brown scientists from the New York City area as first generation kids into and staying in college.
That's awesome. So he really instilled that into
me,
you, but also left that legacy.
Yeah, at Cora P. Maloney College there. And I still meet people out here who know my dad.
That's awesome.
It's wild
That's
that I've
really
met on
cool.
a dance floor,
Wow.
Just
That's really cool.
So to me, education is just always, and research in particular, was exciting to me. And so going to Davis and being in that program there, it was a very fast-tracked grad program.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years there and got to write a one-woman show, had to produce it, write it, direct it. It was a non-stop environment. It was like being thrown in the hot fire of education.
Yeah.
And then I also taught at Davis.
Wow,
I taught,
that's cool.
Yeah, I taught acting for non-majors.
Was that after you had finished or during the program?
No, during. It was part of the program. Basically, because the staff was a little bit on the thin side in the department, they brought mid-career professionals in the acting field so that we could teach some of the undergrad courses.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so I had a course while I was going to grad school. I also was teaching 2 days a week, and that's what paid for my schooling.
Good, they paid you. So you could see them kind of sliding that in. It's part of the education. You're like,
no.
Right.
I mean, that's what's so interesting about the TA positions is in every academic situation, they're so different. Like sometimes a TA is just, correcting papers. Sometimes they're bringing coffee to the professor. In our department, the TAs were literally my main professor that I worked with, Dr. Bella Merlin, who's a big Stanislavski scholar.
Okay.
Basically would come in the first day of class and be like, this is Afi. She's a brilliant professional. You'll be seeing me, though you see my name on the syllabus. You'll be seeing me today. You'll be seeing me. I'll stop in for, midterms, and I'll stop in at the end to say thank you. But other than that, all office hours, all emails, anything else, here's Afi. Enjoy the rest of your semester.
Wow, that's great.
So, I was...
Well, he must have seen something in you, too, that knew that you had that leadership, right?
Whether I had it or not, I learned it really, really quickly. So, I mean, that was really great, too, to just have that playground of like, okay, how do I work with helping young, college-age kids really develop their creative self?
Yeah.
So that's really how I taught my class, is what I was interested in, especially with my wellness background. My class was I think it was 8 a.m. It was 8 a.m. to 12 noon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, or no, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. It was a 3-hour course.
Yeah.
And so I am not a morning person as an artist, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It is very challenging
Yeah.
to do many things with a brilliant and sharp mind before 10 a.m. At that point in my life.
Well, sometimes we're up in the wee hours of night. You know?
Exactly. Or I have a gig, or I'm working.
Right.
I'm also, working events now too.
Yeah.
That's the other part of my entrepreneurial hustle these days. So yeah, I might be out super late with an event, or like consulting and working in a wellness program, or at a community center, or whatever it is. So I have the late nights, and so to have the flip side of the morning, it's like, okay, what am I going to do in the morning so that I can be articulate, awake, and like present to actually be able to give these college kids that are paying a lot of money for this college education, any type of substance. And so for me, I would do the first hour of my class would what I called creative self-development or creative wellness.
Yeah.
So we would do, a half hour of breath work, meditation, some yoga, so that we could get in the body and be able to use the physical instrument.
Yeah.
We would do vocal exercises, and then leading into like scene work and some journaling and that kind of stuff. So that it would just like really get people fully into their being. And it was interesting because a lot of the students that I worked with, and then we would do, I really love improv too, so that I would teach improv stuff, and then we'd go into, monologue work, and then by the end of the semester, we'd work into scene work. And it was so interesting, and I'd have them do journal entries and, have this journal that they would have to give to me every, 2 weeks, every month or something like that, to keep up and let me know where they were at. And I would have different questions that they would answer. But one of my students, this young guy, and, thinking about it being a Research One Institute at UC Davis, so many of the kids were in these huge lecture halls with like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And not really having, not having the ability. They never talk to the professor. They're just, taking notes, or even not taking notes and having somebody else take notes and just showing up and taking the midterm. And so my class was 25 people. Everybody had to interact with one another. It's acting.
So you really have that connection.
Yeah,
bond,
you have
right?
face-to-face connection. And it was interesting really seeing how many of my students, one of my students was like, I really appreciated this class as a communication major. I've never been in a class under 1,000 people. And thanks to your class, I now know how to pick up on girls.
Whoa, hey now. So there's a little side benefit there. Yeah.
Right? Making love happen.
That's awesome.
Giving people social skills, though, because also in this, age of being digitally inept or, obsessed and addicted, how often is it that it's challenging, even in a real life environment, to sit down, on a bus, at a bar, or whatever it is, next just a human being that you don't know, and the first thing you do now is just go to, or even in the line at the grocery store, is not interact with the human next to you. It's like, oh, I'm super engaged with what my email says. Well, you don't give a shit about your email, but it's the nerves of having to actually connect with another human.
Yeah, you get nervous, and it's just easy to default to just kind of like pull back. And,
Yeah, it's a disconnection. So I mean, that was one of my most proud moments as a college TA.
That's awesome. Well, how did you develop that routine? I mean, do you have a background, in the breathing work and the yoga and that kind of body work? Do you have a background in that, or do you just kind of research that and then?
Yeah.
So how did you get that background? Where did that come from?
Pretty much around the same time that I started working full time for myself and getting out of like restaurant work and hospitality work. I got in a really bad bicycle accident in San Francisco. Yeah. Where I was biking. Biking was my main form of transportation. I was riding my bike. I was flying. I used to live in the Castro up on 17th Street. And I was like clipping down 17th Street Hill. I was real, real happy. I was like, hit the light, the green light. I was like, yes, I'm going to be on time for my work at Cha-Cha-Cha. Woo!
Oh, Cha-Cha-Cha.
I was just like,
Cha-Cha-Cha.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Just like, this is you barreling through. And somebody opened up their car door, and I went flying up in the air, and I landed chin first on my pavement.
Ouch.
Split my chin open, hairline fracture in my jaw, and I literally landed like a rag doll. It was chin,
Oh.
then wrists, then elbows, then hips, then legs, then
Ouch.
knees, and then ankles. And every place that I hit, I still have like permanent rug burn from. Like, it's wild.
I could hardly tell. I mean, you look fantastic.
But no, it's
scratching.
changed my jaw. It's changed my ability to sing, like the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's completely changed. It's changed my neck. Like, it basically, because of the pain. I mean, I was young and never had pain in my life, and I never understood people that had pain.
Yeah.
And when people would complain about, oh, my back hurts or my neck hurts or this or that, I'd just be like, oh, stop complaining. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's not real. And then all of a sudden, I had physical pain. I had a jaw that literally, for 6 weeks, I had, I had to go to TMJ therapy, craniosacral therapy, and went to the mandibular condyle specialist at UCSF. I couldn't even fit a spoon in my mouth at the time.
Gosh. Wow.
You know, they wanted to rewire my jaw shut, like break it and rewire it. It was like all these physical things, and then it created
even the
like
healthcare system.
like it created a neck injury I still deal with. So because of those things, it was like because of that physical suffering that I was going through. I also was really interested in yoga. I had my own yoga practice at that time.
Wow.
And my mom was like, hey, well, maybe now's a good time because you can't work all the time. Maybe this is the time to do a yoga teacher training. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm in a lot of pain. This doesn't seem like the best time, but I have the time. And I think that's really something also in the gig world that I think about too, is like sometimes you have the time, but you don't have the money, or sometimes you have the money, but you don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just one of those things where I was like, you know what? I have the time. I don't have the money. I'm going to put it together. Like, this is what credit cards are for. This is, whatever it happens to be. And I did my first yoga teacher training, which was with the Social Justice Institute and with Yoga Tree. And so I just had this ability to focus on my own healing and my own practice. And it really got me into the concept of yoga, not just as like the status symbol of people like in their Lululemon carrying their yoga mat around, you know, like, I'm going to yoga.
Right.
Posturing, competing with the person in the front
I'm
row next to them.
and athletic at the same time.
Right. But it was like, no, this is a therapeutic practice that's going to help me be able to do things in my body that are uncomfortable. I was like, in my 20s walking with a cane for like 3 months. It was messed up. It was not a happy time.
No, but it taught you a lot, right?
Yeah,
about
but it taught me a lot, and it taught me,
the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah, and also before that, I also have always had this kind of like nerdy obsession with nutrition too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really was from this combination of using nutrition and yoga and breath work and the healing arts that, it's kind of this saying of physician heal thyself, of really having to use myself as my own, science experiment. As you will, to really make it work.
Case study.
Yeah, as my own case study. I was like, I'm going to have somebody else tell someone else what to do, but I'm actually going to do these things myself because I have to. And if I don't do it, I experience more pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you came out of that. I mean, obviously, you're full function. I mean, I had a bad skateboard accident before I had healthcare, and I never really got it healed right, and kind of caused a pinch sciatica. And dealing with that over so many years, it's just like, kind of not exactly the same journey, but just going through that and be like, okay, you got to stretch every morning, you got to drink plenty of water, and just learning those different things.
Anti-inflammatory diet probably helps you. Yeah.
No, exactly. And just all those things. And then, for a while I re-injured it at work. And then after that, it's a whole like workers' comp thing and getting the physical therapy. And then they're like, well, you don't need surgery or anything, because I had like pinched nerve, but also some disc issues and, in the spine. And so it's like, oh, well, you get the cortisone shot, Right. And so I bid on that and I did it, and I thought it would be the end all. And it's like, oh, no, like I come to find out, like, first of all.
There's a lot of side effects.
Yeah, there's a lot of side effects.
Yeah.
And then also like, oh, it's not a forever thing. Like
you feel good for about 2 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah, or like it could last a year or two. And then it's like, and then people go get the shot again. And then so you're constantly kind of like, I hate to use the drug analogy, but like chasing the dragon, kind of like where it's like,
Yeah.
where I'm like, so I did it. And then after that, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to stay with the foam roller and the yoga and all that stuff. And I met someone who's a fascial masseuse and does the foam rolling.
Myofascial release.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm stretching. She's like, no, you don't need to stretch. You need to relax.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the muscle, but the fascia and the IT band and all that stuff. It's not about stretching it, because if you stretch it, it pulls it too tight. So, so it's kind of, again, finding that balance.
Well, it's probably like actually strengthening. You need to like relax the fascia or like tenderize the fascia and then create support and stability around the wherever it is in the body, so that you actually have a better foundation, so that you don't keep re-injuring yourself. Yeah,
exactly. So again, you know, hey, as we get old, you know, you got to do, and everyone's dealing with, you know, some sort of, you know, thing like that, or trauma, whether it be physical or mental. But I also wanted to get back to the teaching thing, because, you know, you were learning as you were teaching, so that old adage of like, you reinforce what you know as you teach.
You learn by you do.
Yeah, and then you reinforce. Do you find that to be true as you were teaching these kids? Like,
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
And it made you a stronger actor.
Well, even with
singer.
acting too, even with yoga too, there's nothing more humbling than teaching a beginner class, because, you know, you can think you're advanced at whatever your thing is, you know, whether it's video editing or I don't know, DJing. You could be like, oh, I'm advanced. I'm a scratch pickle. Like, whatever. I'm like, you know, I'm DJing with my elbow and a knee.
There you go.
You know, I'm scratching. But how can you actually break down the fundamentals for somebody? How can you make it into bite-sized, actually digestible bits, like as if you were talking to a 5-year-old who's brand new to earth and really doesn't have a lot of concepts behind it. How do you break it into, you know, even if it's like nutrition, like, this is a protein, that means like and not just, you know, that's too scientific, you know, it's like, I eat lots of fruits, I eat lots of vegetables, I eat lots of, maybe what's a fruit and a vegetable for some kids? Well, I eat lots of colors. I like to eat all of the colors because it makes me feel good. I like to drink water because, you know, otherwise I feel bad if I drink too much soda. You know, breaking it into like little bite-sized things that are digestible, physically, literally, but, you know, concepts that are accessible. And I think that for me it's always humbling and challenging when you're in an educator role, of how do you, you know, and you're learning at the same time for yourself of being able to articulate that, and then at the same time being like, is that true? Or if somebody, also with teaching too, is if you're teaching something and then, you know, you watch somebody do it and they're not doing it incorrectly, or they're not doing it correctly, and you're like, oh, maybe I didn't explain that so well. Right. I missed something foundationally here.
Loop. Yeah. Totally.
It's like automatic. It's a great biofeedback loop.
Totally. Yeah. So you finish that program, and then talk about, because I know you've been doing the jazz camp for many years. Did that come about after, during?
The same time.
Okay.
Basically, I was going to before I went to the California Music Conservatory, I guess I'll go back a little bit before that. I think I was working a bunch, you know, working in hospitality, always had a dream of like working in arts, being an actress, like being some type of musician, but I had a lot of fear and a lot of just fear. Just like, can I do this? Do I know how to do it? Not just getting opportunities and thrown into things and be like, well, maybe I don't know what the basics are for this. And so I started taking, I think at one point I just realized there's great community college education here in the Bay, and started taking some classes at City College, and that really opened up a bunch of doors for me. I was able to sing with a big band, sing with some amazing visiting artists, like Cyrus Chestnut came through my first concert, got to sing with him. He's a ridiculous jazz pianist. Okay. You know, just learning by doing. I got to take a mask working acting workshop with Joan Mankin from the San Francisco Mime Troupe.
Wow.
great. She passed away a few years ago. Just a brilliant artist and social activist. Trained in the Commedia dell'arte, the original school of physical clowning and stuff from like the pre-Shakespearean days, based out of Italy.
Okay.
And now there's a big school in France called the Lecoq School of Physical Theater.
Wow.
But Jean Lecoq School. But so she was super brilliant, and I got to study with her. And then from that opportunity, she saw that I was really serious. I was really into it, and she suggested that I audition for the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival.
Okay.
And then I auditioned from that to that. And then I did 2 seasons with San Francisco Shakespeare Festival.
Wow.
So that was just an opportunity to, go from the education portal to working with some really good mentorship, and then getting to work in a professional standpoint, and begin to collect some of those early AEA union credits and that kind of stuff. So,
nice.
I am always, I was just talking with a friend of mine who is a younger artist, really super talented, kind of on the same trajectory that I was. Started off at children's theater, is doing some summer internships and that kind of stuff. And I see her all over the place, and I'm like, okay, how about maybe going to some places where there's other artist organizations, where there's other artists, where there's maybe some mentorship, like putting yourself in positions or opportunities for scholarship. Because I think that's where especially if you go from the idea of like wanting to be a creative, nurturing the creative self, getting some education around it, and then putting yourself in, I think that's one of the things we lack in the modern day era is we don't have these apprenticeships that existed back in the day. Like I think about in Italy back in the day, if you wanted to be a woodworker, your family at 10 or 8 would like start putting you with an uncle or some great master you'd start apprenticing with that person.
They might be seamstress,
right? And they would actually they would actually give you to this person to live with them, and you'd start working and living with them.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out, or just search the Sam Jack Podcast. The video version's on YouTube, on our channel VMN Videos, or youtube.com/Viral Media Network 415. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get back to the conversation. We'll check you out later, and thanks for supporting the podcast.
I mean, even I initiated a lineage of Southeast Indian Tantra and called Sri Vidya.
Okay.
And in that lineage, there's a whole lineage of Southeast Asian or South Indian martial arts called Kalari.
Okay.
And in that tradition, to learn with a master teacher, you literally are given, like at a young age, your family, you might not even have the interest, but your family might be like, I see this in you.
Yeah.
We've read your Vedic chart. Like, we see who you are as a person. And instead of like putting you into an arranged marriage, they might be like, we see this potential in you as a spiritual leader, or this potential that you can grow into as this martial artist.
Right.
And so we're going to give you to this uncle over here. You're going to start learning in his school. So I had the beautiful opportunity of about 2014 of traveling to Southeast India.
Wow.
And being part of this community and seeing like this master teacher who basically was my teacher Lakshman, who was given this young apprentice Nikhil, who really, he didn't really want to be there at first. He was 10, 12, 14, a teenager, like, when do I get home? And he was like, get to go home? And he was like, nope, you're here now. And he's like, well, what do you mean I don't get to go home?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like 5 years of him waking up at sunrise, teaching the classes with his master teacher, being the one who taught the little kid classes, kind of wondering what was going on, but putting that kind of wild abandon that in the West becomes just like kids out in the street drinking or spending money or whatever,
right?
Scrolling now these days, whatever it is. But like directing that energy into an actual like pursuit, a craft, a lineage, you know, so that we're actually given opportunities to work with people who have had the experience over their lifetime of being these master crafts people, or you know, master crafts.
Well, I'm a huge kung fu, you know, flick martial arts fan, and that sounds, you know, getting back to No Bullshito, but like you watch these martial arts movies
Full
about
circle.
Exactly. But it's like, you know, kind of like, you know, going into a Shaolin monk monastery,
exactly.
Right? And it's like, you know, they go at a young age and they're learning the martial arts, and you have the leader, and it sounds very similar, and it's, you know, it's cliche in the martial arts world, but it's true. I mean, it is one of those things. And I was also going to reference, you know, Rembrandt, or say, you know, any sort of famous artist. People think, especially when it's more of that craft, you know, making ceramics or anything, they're not necessarily making the art all themselves. They have many apprenticeships, and it's a whole, or like Choluli, right? If you're familiar with that, Choluli glasswork is like, there are many people working together to create the craft, and the master artist might make the design, and then from there, the minions or the apprentice will help actually make it.
Minions, no, they're learning.
Yeah, they're learning. Sorry, that's a bad. Sorry, I apologize. You're right. Yes.
That is a very Western perspective.
Yes,
the
you're right.
his
sorry.
minions, they don't get to have their own creative idea. But you know what? They haven't learned enough of the foundation to be able to execute without wasting time, materials, blowing up the studio, having glass on the walls, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, you have to work with the master teacher and follow these these guidelines so that you're able to, you know, see what the path ahead of you is. And interestingly enough, the Kalari tradition predates the Shaolin tradition.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically the temple arts, which are like meditation, yoga, were able to be developed because in feudal times, or, you know, in whatever pre-Shaivite times, there was basically you know, warring tribes, and so how could someone have the opportunity to sit down and quiet and meditate where if there'd be things coming at you? So there were the Kalari masters that basically learned these different animal forms of martial arts and fighting, so that they were able to defend the monks or the meditators and yogis. And then from that tradition, they walked from southern India all the way up through the Himalayas to China.
Wow. That's an anthropologic. Talk about research.
See, talk about research.
This is what I love. This is why I love this podcast, because it literally is like, and we just cover all topics. This is great. I love it, and I didn't even think we'd be talking about we'd go here, and it's awesome. Yeah. So talk again, like kind of going more in depth. I want to hear, because I think you even invited me out one year and I didn't make it. But tell me about your experience with the jazz camp.
My jazz camp, right. I got.
It's okay. Late. We got on tangent. This is great. I mean, it's the spontaneous nature.
I got into music from doing from taking that big band class at City College, and then started getting back into to music through. I had the opportunity to. I had taken some classes, like evening courses at a community music school in Berkeley called the Jazz School, and they were developing a full accredited program called the California Music Conservatory, because they couldn't name themselves Berkeley, like Berkeley School of Music on the East Coast in Boston. And so before I decided to put myself into a year-long program of music, I had heard about this summer program called Jazz Camp West, where it's basically like a week-long adult music camp, where there are music students between the novice to professional, from 18 to 80 plus.
Wow.
And it's just this multi-generational opportunity to work with masters of music. So there's everyone from like Wayne Wallace, some like great Grammy Award winning Latin jazz folks, John Santos, who's, amazing, played with Santana, and also is just this brilliant Santero too, just brilliant, like all these different vocal jazz people. There's dance as well, there's salsa, there's rueda, so just it's this really great opportunity. It's a small camp, about usually about 250, 300 students and about 50 world-class musicians that they teach.
That's
and
cool.
then it's basically kind of like a little mini high school where you have your periods, so many periods a day, like 6 periods a day. You choose your classes and you go to the same class, and so you're able to just work and learn and
Make friends along the way, I would hope. Yeah.
make lots of musician friends.
Yeah.
I've really developed my my music network here in the Bay from Jazz Camp, and also met great musicians now. The artistic director Allison Miller is really badass out of New York, so she's bringing a lot of musicians over now from New York City. And the new camp director Terrence Brewer is a really great music educator here in the Bay Area, and a crazy blues guitarist.
All right.
So it's just this great musical community. So I went there for the first year and was like, if I can hang with making music in the woods for a week, then I will have arrived and I will be able to deal with making music for a whole semester. And that's how I ended up being part of the Jazz Camp community. And then after that first year there, I had so much fun. And it takes place in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
I was going to say it's a retreat.
It's a retreat in the redwoods in the
awesome.
Santa Cruz Mountains.
So it's like Felton area kind of? Or
it's up in
Bonnie Doon kind of?
La Honda.
Oh, La Honda, yeah.
La Honda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just
Alice's
like
restaurant?
1,000 acres of redwoods, music making all day long, and there's 25 stages in classroom set up throughout the redwoods. So you have this great screensaver over there with some redwood trees. So you might actually be at the base of one of those redwood trees with a little pop-up tent, and
that's awesome.
like a full setup of a stand-up piano and bass and drums and all your mics and all your things. And it's just like a music lover's dream to not have to go to work.
Yeah.
There's no cell phone reception pretty much.
That's great.
To just like make music all day and all night. And after my first year there, I was like, how does this happen? What is this merriment? And what is this magic? And how do I become a part of it?
Yeah.
And then I started meeting a bunch of the kids that were crew, basically, the volunteers and some now paid people that set up these 25 stages throughout the redwoods. And ever since then, I now am a crew member.
That's so awesome.
A proud crew member. So every summer, a big part of my my year in musical development, I almost call it like my creative new year, is going out to the redwoods. And even though it's a week with all the setup that we do, it ends up usually being about a 10-day period where, I always, my people that know me, my friends, I always come back talking about Jazz Camp, and I'm like, that one time at Jazz Camp, and everyone's all like, you came back from Jazz Camp,
That's funny.
And now I literally have friends who are like, one of my friends last year, she's an architect, and she's like, you have so much fun at Jazz Camp. I signed up for Jazz Camp this year. I was like, you did? I didn't even know you played an instrument. But lo and behold, she packed up her car with like her little electric keyboard and a drum, and and a guitar. And she didn't play all of them by the end of the week, but she found her way, and
great.
She's going back this year and bringing some recruits, and that's how it happens.
Nice. I love it.
So.
And then do you, like, at the end of it, you just drive out to Pescadero and take a dip in the ocean? Or
how did you know?
Well, I grew up down there, so we'd always shoot out when we didn't want to go as far as Santa Cruz or Half Moon Bay. We just go over the hill. Palo Alto, you just go up 84 through La Honda over to Pescadero, and my dad would take us out there, and he'd take us out there with like a bucket and a crowbar, and we go on low tide, we go mussel hunting.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so we get mussels, and we just go out there for the day, and we did little secret beaches, or you just pull off the side of the road and walk out. And
Pescadero is a big part of Jazz Camp. Like a lot of times we'll come in the back way, or sometimes we do our meetup in Half Moon Bay, and then go in. And many years, depending on the crew leader, we used to have a mandatory baptism.
Okay. Yeah.
At the
Cold
beginning
plunge.
of camp,
where
there's these little arches that exist, like right before you turn to Pescadero, and we would have like a little bit of a baptism, and your moment of coming into crew. You have arrived, shaking off the rest of the world and preparing to go in and fill up the gas tanks, have the best gas station burrito
Yeah.
in Pescadero
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that little shop. Yeah,
that little
totally.
spot.
Yeah.
Like little Mexican.
And Duarte's is right there. And
Exactly.
Duarte's gotten expensive though. I mean, it's like I think it's like
it has.
Yeah, but it's still really good
Their
food.
pie is amazing.
Pie
Their
is amazing.
Olala berry pie.
Yeah,
Oh
Olala
my
berry
God.
pie, and then
If
they're
you
known for
don't know.
just the artichoke soup is what they're known for, I think.
Yeah, they probably
Yeah.
have some clam chowder or something. I don't do creamy soups.
Oh,
but
okay, yeah. And then they have a crab sandwich, fresh Dungeness crab sandwich, which is crab
Mm-hmm.
melt, which is good. But I think that's where I got it. I think it was like $40 or something. But it's like, okay, it's fresh crab. You can't go wrong. But no, that's awesome. And who knows? Maybe you'll recruit me as part of the crew. So.
Oh, there you go. See?
Good sell to the family. Like, hey, let's go camping. Is it family allowed
Yeah,
or just
it's
solo?
family
Okay.
oriented. Yep, you can camp.
Because that'd be a sell.
You
Let's
can
camp for a
RV.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Jazz Camp West. Basically, the organization that throws it every year is a nonprofit called Living Jazz.
Okay, we'll put a link below on the.
Yeah, Living Jazz.
the
I think it
description
might
there.
be .org. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Or .com.
Yeah.
But Living Jazz is a big organization in the East Bay that's happened for a long time with arts education, because there's not music education in the schools. They, pre a lot of the NEA cuts that have been happening recently. They're getting lots of individual funds and then grants, arts education grants to put music education in the school. So basically they have a really great music director. I think the choir director this year, who for the past few years has been Brian Dyer, who's just a badass vocal jazzer, vocalist and teacher, who's part of Bobby McFerrin's circle singing group.
Oh, wow.
And then that happens on Monday in Berkeley at Freight and Salvage. But Brian teaches in the schools, and they basically go to all these different elementary schools. I think it's like 1st through 5th graders, all throughout Oakland.
Oh, great!
And then
we'll have to get them onto Sequoia. I don't know if they go to Sequoia, but they'll have to go. That's where
they might be. They might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they have choir at Sequoia. That's where my daughter goes. But they don't have. It's for the older kids. So they used to have a music program, but then that person left, and so the music thing is kind of up in the air.
Interesting.
But I think they had to choose between art and music, and they chose art. And we have a great art teacher, but it's a shame getting back to that, like how education used to be. There used to be more arts. It wasn't like a choice between art and music and art together. Like you had art and you had music, and music is art, by the way. But yeah, exactly.
It's all called one big stroke.
Yeah, so it's this thing, and actually, I don't know if you heard, the teachers
stroke
are sniffing to strike here soon. So
I know.
we're sort of thinking of a plan B. I might be on the volunteer group to, because we're trying to figure out how to provide childcare for kids during the strike. So I might be part of the sub teaching strike teaching crew. They're going to have different, like Diamond Park and all these different places, different libraries around Oakland. They're going to have kind of impromptu childcare / alternative schools during the strike, so we'll see where that goes. But
well, after
it's
USG strike, it makes sense.
It's just crazy because
educators need to be paid.
They
Period.
do. Yeah.
Period.
Period. Not only just, even if you're not in a high cost of living area like the Bay Area, you should have a livable wage. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, they get paid a little bit under because they have the summers off or whatever. It's like, if you're a teacher, if you're an educator, you know that you're also working during the summer. And the time
you also know that you're literally raising other people's children.
Well, that part. I mean, there's so many things. Yeah.
That part. It is not just a job where you just go to school for a few hours and you go home. No, you literally are worried about these children 24/7.
I mean, you're like a third parent almost, or sometimes a second parent.
More of a parent sometimes than parents.
I mean, it's like we say, if you have a 9 to 5, you're at the 9 to 5 more than you're at home. Same with the kids. The kids are at school more than they're at home sometimes. You only see them on the weekend, especially if I'm lucky. I do work nights, but I'm around in the morning. My wife's an artist, so she's around. She works from home, so it's like we're very lucky in that respect that we can be home during the day.
And it's a choice.
It is a choice, and that was kind of like you're saying. Is like we decided that we want to instill that in her, and my wife had a full-time job for the longest time because she didn't think that art was she didn't. And she's finally in her own, and it's so great to see that. And I know that you've done that. You've created this, and also been multifaceted, because I want to also lead into, like you said, working outside. Well, I want to talk a little bit about music, because we had a tragedy happen recently, but I know. Maybe we should just get that out of the way. Anthony Ant, like, that was tough. Did you know him?
I didn't know him personally, but I knew him through the scene, and it's really,
me too,
it's weighing on my heart, and it's something I've been thinking a lot about.
Yeah, it's really sad.
I just got back from a trip where I was in Florida, and I got to go to a really interesting arts council at this organization, and the name of the workshop I went to was called Creative Love, or no, it's called Critical Love. Okay, and it was about creative wellness, and I think that with the passing of Anthony Ant, it's really for a long time I've been thinking about, like, how do we bridge wellness and mental health and support and artist support and just wellness programming. And it's not just something that, like I was saying, is this you have to pay money to, or you pay $20-$30 a class to go to a yoga studio or whatever the thing is. Like, how do we actually bring wellness into our lives? And especially as Anthony Ant was a great musician and a great hub of a community for years and years.
I was going to say a catalyst for just bringing people together.
Weekly.
All the jams.
So many different jams of just creating a welcoming, collaborative environment where so many different people who, maybe hadn't been. I'm hearing all these stories of musicians who didn't think of themselves as musicians, or were new to the area, or, had played music before in their life and then got invited to one of his jams, was introduced to people, met other creatives and musicians, and then found a way to not make their passion for music actually their living. And so I think it's so important with artists and just community leaders too. This has been a program that I'm developing or been writing some grants for, but haven't gotten full access to you yet. But it's showing me how important the need is like creating opportunities for community leaders, for nonprofit leaders, for essentially musical community leaders, to be supported and meet other people that are in community leadership roles and have conversations around, like, what are our needs right now? Because so many people are suffering. For some people have dire housing needs. Some people have just so much of financial hardship for people. Some people, have food instability. And it doesn't have to be something that people have shame around or aren't able to talk to each other about, instead of just like, what's your next gig? What's going on, man? I saw this post on Instagram about this, your upcoming this or that. But it's like having real conversations, because I know a lot of people right now are hurting and really having a hard time with their grief, and tough. And just wondering, how did this happen to somebody who everyone just thought was this gregarious? Like, sometimes it's the people that are the most gregarious and the people that are the most forward facing and community oriented that are suffering the most.
Because they're projecting inward. They don't want to share inward what they're feeling, so they're projecting outward. I mean, I can have those moments, and he touched so many people's lives, and I was kind of like you, friends of friends, and would see his stories, and it's just amazing, because like he'd have a gig, he'd be posting like, oh, I have a gig somewhere, and then on his stories like, oh, after the gig he's gonna go play for another 3 hours late night, you know what I mean? So with all these other musicians, so and then because you are a musician, if you're a working musician, and you are a gig, from gig to gig, you might get paid decent, but it's not always constant. So finding those gaps, and also not having like a 9-to-5 has benefits, what has the mental and healthcare component. So being able to have that wraparound, as they say, kind of wraparound services or support, from maybe the program you're developing or wherever I think is really crucial and important, because it's also,
or even if it's just like knowing what resources exist, because that was one of the things that I was really impressed about the creative community that in this workshop that I was a part of, is it just at the very end it created just a handout that was like, these are the resources, these are grants that exist, this is like some daily things that exist, these are upcoming things that exist,
because the resources are out there. It's just putting them together,
all in one place, because I think it could be really isolating. We're in this time where, you know, there's so many avenues to connect in the social media world,
right? But
like I said, it could be really challenging to connect with the actual human that's next to you.
Yeah, but also the algorithm of the social media will pigeonhole you into the niche or the certain, you know, as they say, you know, we're too fragmented, where the algorithm, like, getting political, not too deep, but like how, like, if you're left leaning, you're only going to be fed left content. If you're right leaning, you're kind of in that realm of, like, it's very expansive, but it's also very siloing in a way. Puts us in silos in a way, right?
100%. Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know. It's crazy, but so, like, talk about. I kind of want to talk now, kind of branch out. We've talked a bunch about music, getting from in front of the camera to behind the camera, and kind of how that evolved.
Yeah. Pretty much like I said. You know, in front of the camera, not a lot of money sometimes. You know, there's a lot of auditioning.
And everyone wants to be an actor or actress, right?
Oh, And then now we're in this whole real people casting thing where, you know, and with actor strikes and, you know, union issues and
user created content,
user created content and like influencers, you know, everybody's an actor, everyone's in front of the camera, and not necessarily skilled people. It's just like commercialism for commercialism's sake. So there, and then especially with the real people casting that's happening, it's just like, you know, there's a whole era here in San Francisco where there's just be, you know, someone walk up to you on the street and be like, you look like, I see you're skating today. Like, you know, you look like a skater. We'd love to have you in this commercial. And then great. You know, great. I love the opportunities that happen for people. And there's also people who spend time and have training and all that kind of stuff. So, so for me, it just became a logical kind of progression of the hospitality work that I was doing for a long time, that has now that I've now focused or funneled into like event management and event production. And then it really was an old crew that I worked with doing a 35 millimeter film. A friend of mine was in grad school at Monterey State and did this really beautiful film where I played the lead actress, and I played this Cuban character in this kind of like film noir 1940s, this really beautiful film called Native Tongue. Okay. And my friend who produced that film is now gone on to move to LA, you know, been in the directing world and the film production world and all that kind of stuff. And then full circle, a lot of those folks originally are from Monterey area and moved back AC after children to have support of their families and you know the larger family network. And so it's a lot of different working film professionals. And director Dave Merrick is our director photographer, who does a lot of like Hollywood films, and my friend Christopher Johnson, who's a really great director producer, and they have a great film network called Corbindale Sounds and Images. And I started working with them because you know, I was on an event in Monterey and was just happy. You know, it's I never wanted to believe. I hated this when I was younger, and people like, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
But it is. It really is. Yeah.
But I don't like that. It is what you know, and you do have to have your
combo,
skills.
Kinda.
You do have to have your skills honed.
Yes.
You have to be prepared, and that's one thing as a, you know, as a multidisciplinary artist, is that there's so many times where I'm sitting working on my website or doing something, and I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, what is this for? Yeah. You know, like, no one is ever going to see this. But then it's like a year later or 6 months later, someone's like, hey, do you have this thing? Do you have your CV updated? Do you have let me see your website. And you're like, I didn't think this mattered, but it did. Yeah. So it was just one of those opportunities where, you know, I was on a gig, working, reconnected with an old friend, and was chatting with him about my event production stuff, and he was like, wait a minute, from what it sounds like, you could do production coordinating. And I was like, well, someone's told me I would be a good producer before, and
Yeah.
I guess so. He's like, could you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Asking me all the questions. I was like, yeah, I do all that stuff. And so it was just a natural fit.
That's great.
And I worked on my first job with them. We've been doing like quarterly corporate commercials, which is really great because it pays and it's fun.
Corporate pays pretty well. There's a lot of tech companies and just corporate companies that do all sorts of video stuff, live events, live streams, live commercial work. Yeah.
Yeah, you do some of that work.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. It's nice work when you can get it.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, sometimes the content is not...
Oh, it's boring as shit.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
And so much is AI generated. Not generated, but about AI and the future of AI and how it's going to change the world.
But it's interesting because I'm working with people that have an interesting, unique perspective, have really taken their niche way of... They're kind of all childhood friends who have probably their own storytelling and way of getting along since they've probably known each other since grade school, some of them.
Yeah.
So they have a really great camaraderie, easy way of getting along on set. It's just lots of humor, lots of fun. And then also it's like when it's focus time and get things done.
That's good.
And I love to do the behind the scenes things and make things run smoothly. And, it's almost like in my event work, I like to say I get paid to party. Totally. I get to be in these really interesting places, and really, I don't know, one of the events I did recently last month, it was, of course, I should be signing NDAs for these things, but just some of the people who were in the room were like the creator of, the CFO for ChatGPT, one of the original creators of Google Maps.
Oh wow!
Just like super heavy. Wired magazine, the CEO of Wired magazine, like just these masterminds who, like, you sometimes, especially in the Bay, you find yourself in places and you're like, wait, who are these people in the room?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They look important, or you could tell there's an air about them, right?
Like, or if it's a really small event, you're privy to hearing some information. I mean, I've worked an event pre-pandemic that let me know that the pandemic was happening. I worked an event in December of 2019. And I think it was for Visa or something. Okay. And I remember all these people came in the room. And some of the people were like shaking hands, and they're like, oh, I wouldn't shake hands. And we were like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, and they were starting to talk about the financial landscape of what's going to be happening. Why is it so important for people to have their like credit card networks and media together? Because Wuhan was already experiencing COVID, but it wasn't out in the U.S. yet, and it didn't make sense, any of the things. But I remember the weirdest thing was that people wouldn't shake hands, and they were making jokes about the people who were shaking hands.
Wow.
And then
like savages,
right? And then 2-3 months later, I was in another corporate job of working with Kaiser, where I do really interesting work with Kaiser Permanente as a communication consultant.
Oh, cool.
And that I've done for years. And also, they had just, again, people wouldn't shake hands, and that was when the cruise ship had just happened.
Oh, the cruise ship.
The cruise ship where got locked down, and there was the first introduction of COVID cases to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on in a whole different like wellness cohort at the time with all these people that were in New Mexico.
Okay.
My Tantra cohort, and then I was like talking to them, and I was like, hey, there's this thing, it's called COVID. People are like hoarding toilet paper, and it's getting weird, and they're talking about shutdowns, and they're like, oh, this is never gonna happen. That's in the coastal, those are in the big cities. And I literally was telling them things that like 2-3 weeks later, it was like sweeping into the center of the United States, and they're like, you're the one who's been telling us all the things, and we've never believed you, and then things are happening. It's so interesting.
Crazy. I know, it's crazy that we came out of it, and I just feel like the post-COVID world is interesting because there's so many things we've all sort of accepted, and just the prices of things going up, and just the distribution, and also learning that like as distribution of goods gotten centralized, that's where some of these systemic things can happen, because if there's a breakout somewhere, that it affects the whole country, whereas like things used to be more
The whole
localized.
world, yeah.
Like say food distribution, or you know, you used to get your butcher from a locally sourced place or whatever. You know what I mean? Like everything's so centralized and everything's so monopolistic, I guess, is, you know, as far as systems and companies and you know, you look at the way that
corporatization. It's really interesting. I was thinking about this last night, that whoever controls perspective controls the narrative. And so if you even think about what's happening as far as like politics and the perspective that's being, you know, whether it's through the algorithm, whether it's through you know, so many laws that are being passed underneath our nose that, you know, we think we have lived in this democratic society, and we're really realizing that it's not that.
No.
We've learned that we are in the corporate states of America. It's not the United States of America. It has now become a systematically divided, intentionally divided narrative of, you know, a perspective of division that is just being continued to be like flowered out. And so that's why even just like with the wellness work, with, you know, creating opportunities for ourselves, with, you know, so many people that I know are super skilled. And I have multiple friends who've worked in corporate environments who have been out of work for a year and a half. So really thinking about like what are ways that we can become more kind of multifaceted, multidimensional, and like having multiple streams of income.
Yeah, it's like, you know, in investment, you want to diversify, you know, and just in your skill set. And it just allows you to kind of roll with the punches and adapt to, you know, certain things that happen. I also think like in this age of AI and everything being commoditized, you can't commoditize or AI. I mean, I know some creatives are scared of AI, but I really feel that if you just stay creative and you resist the urge to use AI for your creativity, maybe you can use it to help expedite your creativity.
Or expedite the boring administrative stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was leaning to. Yeah, but like, you know, you keep your creativity pure. Like you can't manufacture that in a lab or in, you know, on the computer with an algorithm or scraping, you know, things like that. It's always gonna your creativity. The human mind and the human creativity, I think, is always going to come on top. So it's really refreshing that you're keeping the hope alive, you know, and you're keeping that positivity, because I really feel it's true. And everyone is creative in some respect, you know, with whatever they do.
And we just need to spend more time. We need to spend more time away from our devices. You know, spend more time. Listening to the inner child, or, you know, if there's a passion that you're into, spending some more time and energy investing into that, because there's so much time that's spent scrolling. I'm not above it, you know, and I'm really trying to be better at it. But I realize how I don't know. I really love this. There's a great book by Julie Cameron called The Artist's Way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's one
we talked about that with another guest. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And I've read parts of it. Yeah. No,
it's
great.
It is one of the best practices that there is. And I've done it before. But even with The Artist's Way, you know, of taking 20 minutes a day where you're just like writing things down, not for the sake of going back and reading them afterwards, but like we have so much. Our brain is a supercomputer. There's so much information that comes in, and we have to be able to process it, and we also have to be able to let go of it, because otherwise it becomes overwhelming. And so
it kind of festers up in there.
And so even with like creative pages, with the morning pages, it's just like taking 20 minutes and writing free form, like having your coffee, not being with your phone, you know, or whatever you're having your tea, and then just letting some creative ideas flow, and then being like, I'm thinking about this thing, like being within your own. We have this
with
whole
no constraints.
We have this
just get
whole it out. Like interstellar cosmic dimension within ourselves, and it's so left so unexplored. And I think that's part of, you know, what's so dangerous about the narrative being spun of division and, you know, and disconnection is that we have this ability to connect with ourselves, with our creativity, with other humans, with you know, outside of just like breathing from eating from the corporate teat,
Yeah.
buying from the corporate teat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being
Yeah.
plugged into the matrix 24/7. And so it's only when we have those opportunities to unplug, replenish, expand, that we are able to see outside of ourselves and realize that there's a larger network that's not, tied into just a digital network.
Yeah, and we're more connected and have commonality than we do have things that we disagree with. You know?
Right.
With
Yeah.
all the diversity with, in the world and in our country and all this stuff, there's also a lot of commonality. And in that diversity, there's a lot of commonality, I feel like.
And there's a lot of beauty.
Yeah, oh, so much beauty.
So
yeah,
much
in
beauty.
art and life and all that stuff. So,
And a lot of beauty and
Yeah.
magic, yeah.
well, this has been great. I mean, I think I'm sure we can talk for hours, but I think we cover.
We did it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, we finally sat down, and I'm really glad you were able to come in and chat. It's really uplifting and inspiring, and this is exactly what the podcast is all about. It's about touching all the subjects, being free-formed and just bouncing around kind of like jazz and
Yeah.
hitting all the notes.
We're
and
improvised, man.
hearing your
It's all
story and
jazz.
also imparting wisdom on the next generation, which is great. And I'm really glad you were able to come on. And
Thanks,
thank
Jack.
you so much.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Anything else you want to promote or upcoming that you want to share?
Yeah, no, check me out on Instagram. I'm on Pleasure and Justice for All. And yeah, if you want to find me on Linktree, you can see the different classes and workshops and things that all things Afia Yana. You
Great,
can
and
definitely find me there.
Absolutely. We'll put some links below, and we'll definitely keep this conversation going. Hope to have you on the pod again,
Yeah.
and keep collaborating, and we'll share some scripts and come up with that feature.
Yeah.
More than one feature film. We'll start with one, and then we'll just keep going.
Yeah, and I have a feature film that is going to be. We're talking about a limited theatrical release this year.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Well, congratulations.
So
we'll
that's
keep
exciting.
updated on that, and I'll be
Look
sure
out
to
for Dr. Quarantine.
Dr. Quarantine. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Okay, great, awesome, sweet. Is that the one you did with
Tara Reid.
Tara Reid.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That was probably
It's
a trip.
wild.
Wild, yeah.
Wild times.
Well, because to see her she's kind of making a comeback, right?
Yeah.
I know we kind of wrapped up the podcast, but now this is the epilogue.
But I
yeah.
think it's kind of like the epilogue is
Yeah.
mental health. It's a film about mental health
Okay.
and the effects of the quarantine and how we're all affected. And
No.
even when you think you're not affected, you're affected. So everybody just take care of each other out there.
Yeah, totally. Now,
I
did
think
she
there's
help?
more.
Is that comes from her own experience, or is she was just an actress on the film?
She was a writer and an actor on it as well.
Because I know she's definitely been through a lot.
Yeah,
so,
and producer too. Yeah,
it's good.
so-
It's good to see that, and it's good, for all of us because we all deal with things, and life is not a plateau. It's ups and downs. It's peaks and valleys. And
It is not
highs and
linear.
lows. Yeah, exactly.
It is
So you
not
gotta
linear.
do those things, the healing and the yoga work and the mind, body, spirit. It's all connected, and
100%.
it's really awesome. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Sam
time.
Jack.
All right, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. This has been the Sam Jack Podcast with Afayayana. Thanks. Bye.
Peace.
Peace.